So the Dungeon Coach and Treantmonk had a great collaboration where they talked about inspiration, and I really liked the video. But while I was watching, I felt like something was missing. Like there was a question that went unanswered that feels like it should have been answered as they were talking about it. So in this video, I'm going to try to answer that question. Welcome to Intelligence 14 Wisdom 2, and I do want to say I am not trying to say that their video was bad in any way. It's not what this is. I was really inspired by it and all the puns that they made. I actually want to use inspiration now that they've kind of opened my eyes to the coolness that inspiration can be. But what I'm doing in this video is I'm trying to create a lens by which you can look at their video and gain a lot more out of it by answering this question that remained unanswered. What is the question that I left unanswered? Well, it's the fact that they talked a lot about like what is inspiration and what can inspiration be? What can we change about inspiration to make it better? But they didn't really talk about why is inspiration.
I'll do you one better. Why is Gamora?
Thanks, Drax. So I've done some analysis, and I think I know now what inspiration is. Inspiration is a metagame system which incentivizes behaviors that the Dungeon Master wants to encourage. That's a relatively complicated sentence, so let's try to unpack that. So this phrase, this sentence, is the definition of inspiration. I'm going to break it down for you by just taking out the important pieces. There we go. The first bit, metagame system. Inspiration is a metagame system. Whereas the D20 mechanic, the core mechanic of D&D, where you determine an ability score that connects to the action and also any skills, proficiencies, situation modifiers, those are all based on reality, or in-game reality, where all the modifiers that affect the roll, all the things that affect the roll are things based on what makes sense in the universe. But inspiration is not an in-universe mechanic. It's not a way to represent a world that's semi-realistic. It is a metagame system because there's no reason you have inspiration in-game. But out-of-game, it's because you did a thing that the Dungeon Master likes, or the Dungeon Master wants to encourage. The rule as written in Dungeons & Dragons for inspiration encourages people to play their personality traits and their bonds and flaws and things like that. And if you change stuff about inspiration, how you give it out, what you're doing is changing the thing that you're encouraging with the rule. And this is a very important part. So when you're thinking about inspiration, maybe tweaking it or adding it or removing it from your game, think about what are you trying to encourage? What behaviors do you want inspiration to cause to happen more? Now, how do we do that? Well, it incentivizes behaviors, makes it more rewarding, enticing to do certain behaviors through two ways. And one of them is to reward those behaviors, and two is to give them a tool to do those behaviors. Now, for the most of the video with Dungeon Coach and Treantmonk, they were talking about ways to, reward players for doing these certain behaviors, and they talked about different types of behaviors they'd want to encourage. But they also talked about it being a tool, a way to create heroic moments, to create or how it achieves clever strategies. So when you use inspiration as a tool, you sort of offer it to players. Either you give them before the action happens that you want, that they can use inspiration to help with, or you offer to give it to them when they make the roll. When they're thinking, should I go here, try to sacrifice myself in order to try to save my friend, or should I play it safe over here? You say, hey, I'll give you inspiration if you do the heroic thing. You can use it either to do that or to do something else. That's another way you can use inspiration. It's a tool. But both of these things, as a reward and as a tool, work to incentivize behaviors, make it more enticing, more exciting to do those behaviors. So now let's go back to the video and talk about how, looking at the behavior that we're trying to encourage, what can we take from the video to encourage that behavior? One of the things that they actually did the entire analysis that I was going to do is when they talked about giving initiative at the beginning of the session if you're on time. But the behavior that they're trying to encourage is people arriving on time, because that really helps out the group as they discuss. And the reward that you're dangling in front of them, the carrot on the stick, is you give them inspiration if they show up on time. If they don't come on time, they don't get inspiration. And they get to do less cool things, which is bad. So next time, they'll show up on time. Now, another thing, sort of like a generalized thing that they talked about, certain behaviors that they wanted to, encourage, and they use multiple behaviors because not everybody's that great at multiple of these things. So like roleplay is the most obvious one. Role playing your character well is a behavior we want to encourage with inspiration. We want to encourage heroic moments, just ridiculous plans that, this is never going to work, but we're going to do it anyways because it's fun. Also, like great combat, clutch saves and great moments in combat. So just all of these things, we want to reward those with inspiration. We want to encourage those behaviors. And even though people might not be that great at roleplay, like they were talking about, like we want to give this out for a variety of things. I'm going to leave them to do the discussion about what things you can give out inspiration for, because they did a better job of it. But one thing I do want to mention is the idea that they also put forth, like giving it at the start of the session. That way, it's in circulation. Everybody has it. You don't have to worry about it. The reason you would do that is you want to give them a tool to accomplish those things. Maybe it's like a clutch save or a tense moment. You need to land this hit. If you're jumping off a cliff, trying to land on the horse and knock the rider off, if you fail on those, or it's really hard to succeed on one of those rolls, you can say, oh, I have my inspiration. I want to use that, make it more likely. It's a metagame mechanic. There's no reason why it should be an advantageous situation for you to be jumping off a cliff onto a horse. But because we're trying to do cool stuff, then inspiration becomes a tool to accomplish cool stuff. Another behavior that they said you might want to encourage is making the game enjoyable for others. And they really talked about this a lot. One way they talked about is the way Treantmonk does inspiration is he has this bowl of coins. It's less than the number of players for reasons that they talked about in the video. It's really interesting. Anyways, the idea is everybody can give the inspiration to somebody at the table who they did something that I thought was cool, that they really enjoyed. And so that's just a way for, if you're making the table and have a better experience, somebody's going to give you their inspiration from somewhere. And also, another idea that I put forth is at the end of the session, the MVP gets inspiration. It's a way to kind of reward them, make them feel really special because they were the MVP. They helped the team out the most, and so that's why you get inspiration. So these are different ways to encourage the same behavior. That is, making the game more enjoyable for everybody at the table. Now, they talked about a lot more ways to use inspiration. I haven't even touched the video where they talked about class-specific and subclass-specific inspiration types. Those are really cool and interesting concepts that I expect nothing less from the Dungeon Coach. As you're going and watching or rewatching these videos, think about why would you use these types of things? What are you trying to accomplish? What behaviors are you trying to incentivize at the game table? I don't usually do this around the end of my videos, but I want to say thank you for watching. I promise I'm not trying to hold on to the coattails of this popular video to try to increase my subscribers. Hopefully I had something useful to add to the conversation about inspiration.